Hello, everybody from Scattered Chaos Podcast. My name is Jeff Downs. I will be the substitute host today. As our regular host, Dave Uziel, he is on assignment. Dave, get back quick. Today we have a really, really cool guest. Friend of mine from a local agency who is probably one of the guys who knows the most about canines that I've ever met. Marty Mahon, welcome.
Thank
you for being here, brother.
I'm excited.
Awesome. So Marty is a lieutenant with South San Francisco Police Department, as well as a private business owner, and we'll get into that shortly. Marty's been managing working dogs for probably the majority of his 25-year career. Does an amazing job. I would say that the South San Francisco Police Dog Unit is probably one of the biggest in the county, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, for a smaller agency, which South City really isn't, but is. You have, what, 6 dogs? 7
we're
dogs?
running 6 dogs right now.
So this is really cool. If you love dogs and you want to know what canines do, how they're trained, what we can use them for, what we can't use them for, this is your episode. So, Marty, again, thanks for being here. Let's start, if we could, with some introductions of you, like who you are, what you do, what you like to do, what you don't like to do, just general for our audience.
Yeah, like my name is Marty Mahon. I'm a police lieutenant with the South San Francisco Police Department. Been on for about 25 years. Been a part of canine most of my career. I got in right after I got off probation. I was very lucky to get into it. And worked 3 amazing dogs throughout my career. Got to work with different task forces, with DEA, U.S. Marshals. So got to do a lot of cool stuff with my police dogs and stuff like that. So it's fun.
That's cool because I got my dog right off probation.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, dude. So we're very, very similar in that regard. I know you're managing the team now.
Yeah.
And you've been doing that for how many years?
I think I've been supervising them for over 15, like as a trainer, and then the last 2 years I took over as the manager of it, and then Chris Devin, who's our sergeant, is the supervisor of us.
Okay, so that's a great segue into your life away from uniform. So Marty is also the founder, and I guess you could say you're CEO
Yes.
of Trident Canine Solutions, and we are associated with Marty at the Urban Paws side of things, as Marty was one of the gentlemen who we went to seek out a trainer, and you introduced us to Dana Fruman.
Yes, amazing.
So
lady.
The circle of us is small.
Yes.
I mean, it really is. And the network in law enforcement is amazing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know who to go to find a service dog trainer, So guys like you are in the industry. But Trident Canine Solutions is a local run business by Marty and Chris.
Yep.
You have Amanda
from San Bruno. We have 2 professional decoys, Larry and Alex. And we have a couple of different private trainers that come out and help us, stuff like that as well,
Tell us a little about what Trident Canine does.
So a long story short is probably 10 years ago, I got asked to work for this company through who's a well-known trainer, Ron Cloud, of the Modesto area.
Sure.
He said, hey, I got a business partner. He's opening a company. He lives out in Redding. Just can you come up and meet him? So I said, sure. He's up in Redding. So I didn't realize it was a big meeting with a bunch of trainers. So I go up there day one, and I'm looking around the room, and I see like Greg Tawney, who's a top trainer. I see Mike Waller, Ron Clower's there, and I'm like, man, he's pulling in the big guns for this thing,
Yeah.
The guy had a great business model. He wanted to basically take over Southern and Northern California, get all the top trainers, and then he was going to run his company out of that. We really liked it, so we all decided as trainers, let's jump on. I worked for him about a year, and it was great. We were training. We had a bunch of contracts. I had mostly the Peninsula, and then shortly after that, he decided to spend his money elsewhere, not into his canine world. So, and he wasn't paying the trainers.
Oh wow.
So
yeah,
we were getting frustrated, and then eventually we just said like, hey, it's really not worth our time right now. We're away from our families, our friends. We could actually work patrol overtime. We can make just as much money doing that, even though we love doing the canine stuff. We'd probably do it for free.
Sure.
So then my buddy Mike Waller, he's like, hey, I'm gonna open my own business. I said, dude, he's like, can you come on? I said, yeah. So I helped him for about 6 months. That time I think San Mateo PD joined us. And then I was talking to Chris one day. I'm like, dude, we can do this.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna mess up. We're gonna make mistakes, but our whole thing is high quality dogs, high quality training.
Yeah.
And so I want to model. That's the South City model. What we've been doing here, we're successful. People are coming to us for advice. So I think in 2015 we opened the company. It's just been growing slowly.
That's awesome.
You know, yeah, it's been amazing.
So I remember, so I was trying to get hired, and this is going to go back in the day with Roy Varney.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, dude. So I remember going to I guess it was kind of like a Citizens Police Academy at the time, just to visit South City PD. Danny Gill was an explorer, okay?
That's a long time
and he
ago.
was a decoy.
Yeah.
And you guys had, I think you had at the time 4 dogs.
Okay.
And Roy was in charge of the program at the time. So, yeah, man, I remember being down in the garage watching a demo. They were all shepherds, right?
Yep,
I don't
right.
think Belgian Malinois had entered the picture yet.
Nope.
But always probably one of the premier units, in my opinion, in San Mateo County. I know you guys have a training field over by the airport still, or used to?
Used to, yeah.
Yeah.
We go train. We have different locations, but one of my decoys, Larry, owns a field in Brisbane. We go to a lot too with the.
So Larry is another small circle of friends. I've taken my Mal to be trained by Larry.
Okay, yeah.
So Larry owned the grandmother of my male Mal,
Oh, really?
and so it was certified that my dog was crazy.
yeah, right. Yeah,
'cause
Larry's dog.
the grandmother was crazy.
Yeah.
But Larry's another great guy who's been in the industry for years. So, we're going to jump around because we're scattered. But Marty, going from working for someone, right, which is easy,
Yeah, very easy.
to all of a sudden saying, "Let's do this. We
Yep.
can do this." What was that like, man? Like starting up from scratch. First of all, like having the capital to do it,
Mm-hmm.
finding places to train, right?
Yep.
A building maybe, partnering, and then attracting agencies. Tell us about the journey on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Chris and I said, let's jump in the pool. Let's jump in the deep end and see what happens, And we made mistakes. We learned a lot. I mean, I was making mistakes on the business side of how to run it, The canine training, we had it down, and that was going smooth. And, to us, it's about our clients and working with them. But then going from just training dogs, now I'm dealing with command staff, and
That's fun.
Yeah, what do you want out of your dogs? What do you want out of your program? What do you want out of your handlers? And stuff like that. So it's a different realm. I really rely on Chris and my other trainers to do the training, and I'm trying to work with the clients as more.
Sure.
But it's a daily thing. It seems like
Oh, you have to, man.
Yeah.
Now you have your career
Right.
as a professional police officer.
Yes.
Now you're trying to get your business rolling,
Right.
Because there is life after being a police officer,
Yes,
and
there
that's
is.
a great retirement program, taking your expertise and rolling it into other people. How many agencies are with you guys now?
I think we're up to about 12 different agencies and about over 30 dogs right now.
Wow.
So
And I know you, in my experience, there was one other trainer that was the predominant trainer in the area.
yes.
That was where my dog came from.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have experience with them. They are great people. And,
Yes, very good
And I
people.
think they're kind of tailing out of the industry somewhat.
Yeah.
But getting into hey, we are the people that will give you the best dogs,
Mm-hmm.
and let me show you why. That's hard, man. I mean, selling chiefs, you're a command officer now,
Yeah.
so you hear the pitches, you hear the budget issues.
Yeah.
I mean, what did you do? How did you sell it? Were there demos or what was it?
And I think a lot of it got from handlers explaining to their command staff they've seen our dogs. And I think what helps out the model of the South City dogs, because we were getting called over the county because, they liked what we were doing with our dogs, Right. And especially when I first got on, we were one of the few detection dogs
Okay.
were out there. So they really liked that aspect of it. But I think we're not big on social media. I understand the power of social media, but I want our clients to come based on our reputation and our dogs and what's
Sure.
out there,
Yeah.
But I mean, I've had dogs that started programs. We had to wash them and trying to explain to command staff why we need to wash this dog. And
Right.
I always wanted to be big on our warranties, so I make sure hey, we're going to cover this dog and we're going to make it right at the end of the day. Because I understand going to your chief and going hey, I need another $10,000 for a new dog is not the best
Right.
conversation to have.
What does it cost now to take a dog from start to finish to being in service on the street?
So if you don't know, a lot of the dogs in police work come from Europe. So European prices, I remember my first dog we actually bought. It was the first South City dog we ever bought. We used to get donated dogs, was $5,000. Now dogs we sell are about $15,000
Okay.
because the European prices are going up. The cost of shipping the dogs and all those different costs are just getting added up to it. So it's grown, and then so you pay $15,000.
That's just for the dog, right?
That's just for a dog and a green dog, not a trained dog.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that means the dog has no training. It really doesn't know much. It's just genetically has the ability to do it. It got some experience with some bite work, no obedience on the dog at all, no detection on the dog at all.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you got all the work ahead of you on that.
Yes, right, yeah.
Okay.
And then you got to put a handler in a handler's course, which we're actually doing for Brisbane PD right now, and that's 7,500.
How many weeks now?
It's 4 to 5 weeks. We keep it very flexible. Like we tell them, we can usually get it done in 4 weeks, but if I need the 5, can you please give it to me?
Okay.
So it's 4 or 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Depending on the dog, how long you can work for.
And I see on your socials and your videos that you guys do visit areas around here where you can get training sites, real world training sites. My favorite one, honestly, is watching your dogs doing water work.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, that was very cool.
That's really cool. I know exactly where you filmed it because it's like the only place around here that has running rivers.
Right.
But like taking a dog from being green, which we've all seen if you're in the industry, and taking him to where you say, all right, he's certified, post-certified, everything like that. How painstaking is that for the trainers? What kind of training plans do you have to come up with? I mean, I know there's a process to it from taking a green dog to a certified dog, but you guys, this is your lives.
Yeah.
And I know Chris is still working. I know Amanda's still working on the street. You're working on the street. What's it like, man? Do you have a life anywhere else?
No. Yeah. No, it's busy and it's constant, and just like the little stuff of the business side. It's like when I get off work and when the family goes to bed, I'm like doing something with it,
Yeah.
and just trying to improve it or whatever we can do with it,
Yeah.
But it is a lot. We're teaching, in 4 weeks, we're saying, hey, go out there and do your work, and and hopefully we trained you enough. But the maintenance training we do after that, I think, that's where they start improving more.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
and for those of you that don't know, it's not that Marty has a dog in his training regimen and they say you're certified and that's it. There is maintenance training that Marty just mentioned. I'll have him elaborate more. There's maintenance training that we all do as in-service canine handlers. So how many times a month do you guys do canine? Is it every other week? We used to do it every other week.
So, yeah, depending on the agencies. But so post, so we file the guidelines under, recommends 16 hours. So that's, I recommend all agencies 16 hours. So usually we have training groups on Wednesday nights and Thursday afternoons. So usually the dogs are coming once a week to get training for like at least 4 to 5 hours,
That's great. I mean, being a former handler, if you're not training with your dog, the first person's going to see it is your trainer, right?
Yes, right, yeah.
Just, right away who is and who isn't training,
Yes.
right? And just rolling back just a second, Marty mentioned POST. It's Peace Officer Standards and Training. So in California, we're governed by that as police officers and municipalities. They set standards that are vetted and proven that we have to follow. And you'll hear it sometimes. We'll talk about being post-certified.
Yes.
The dogs, we're post-certified as police officers, and there's different levels of things that we do. But the dogs have to be post-certified as well as their handler. So that's part of the certification process for those of you that don't know. You can look up POST online and you can see their standards. It's very transparent. You can see what we're required to do and what we can't do. So that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, so the job never ends for you guys.
No, I think it's constantly training. And we tell the handlers, like, if it's slow wearing work, you should go out there and work on some stuff. It's either obedience or just some odor work you can do by yourself.
Right.
You should be doing it. And you can tell the ones that are doing it and the ones that aren't doing it.
Yeah, as soon as they get out of the car.
Yeah.
Take me through a day in the life of a new, just got my dog certified. I'm excited. I put my canine pin on. Right. I'm the baddest ass in the land. My dog's the baddest dog in the world. Just can you take us through the day of a canine handler in South City PD, for example?
Yeah.
Equipment and things like that. I mean, I would say your patrol cars now, the newer ones, are pretty dialed in.
Yeah.
The newer Explorers, are they?
Yes, Explorers.
And right there, I mean, Marty's involved in that. Budget-wise, you got to pay for those and all the equipment. But take us through that, Marty. Like what you need, what's safety for the dog, for the handler, et cetera, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so the first thing is we want to set up the car, right? We use what's called the canine insert. So the back seats are taken out of the Explorers, and we have a big insert through American Aluminum, and it's been crash rated, so it's probably one of the best ones out there. There's been a couple of companies that have them, but we really like the American Aluminum ones because if the car rolls, they get in an accident, the dog's pretty safe in those things, like us wearing a seatbelt,
Sure.
So that's our biggest thing. We also have what's called Ace Canine Hot and Pop. So it controls the temperature in the car, and it reads it. So if it gets too hot, it will send an alert to our phones. It'll start roll the windows down, and the siren will go off. So, even though we're in South City and it never gets hot, but
I was just gonna say maybe 3 days a year,
yeah,
bro.
yeah, I know, right? That we get over like 90.
Yeah, exactly.
But like for the guys in the valley or wherever in
Right.
Southern California, like it's an important tool to have, in our cars. So.
Well, especially now, it's been in the news, right? Like with all the heat waves going on.
Yeah.
I mean, the beauty of those systems, and they are great systems, but they can fail. So,
Yes.
I mean, it's amazing from where I had my dog with a fan on the window,
right? Yeah.
that may or may not work,
Yep.
To these systems that will automatically close windows, turn on ACs and things like that. That's amazing to me,
Yeah.
but taking care of the dog is just like taking care of the human. So,
Oh,
yeah, so carry on, man. I appreciate it. I love this. I mean, like, technology's changed so much from when
know.
I was a handler and the way you guys do things. I love hearing this stuff. So
Yeah.
go
I think
for it.
when I got my first canine car, it just had a wooden platform over the
Yep.
plastic
Yep.
seats in the back, and that was it.
Yep. Yep.
You couldn't get the dog out. You had to open the doors. Now we have a button on our belts that we can push the button and it'll automatically open the door for us. So the technology is amazing.
Oh,
now.
dude, when I first started, our rear windows didn't have bars or screens. So, right? And Jim Ford, right?
Yes.
He has a good story about his dog and somebody who was a little inebriated come up and wanting to say hello one night without the screens on. So we'll leave it at that. But yeah, that's great. So the door poppers, that's a tool that can save an officer's life.
Yes.
Not only save the dog's life for climate control, but talk about that real quick. What the door poppers do?
Yeah, I mean they're not used that often, but it is that safety factor we get. So if we contact someone and you're by yourself and you get in a fight or some kind of altercation with them and you can't get back to your car, I can just push the button and have my dog come out and basically be my cover officer and help me what I need to help it with,
Right.
If it needs to be apprehension or if I just need to put the dog in a down next to me. So we have another force there. It's just so nice tool to have with us.
How about a story? And I know you've got them. Anytime you've popped the door where you use your dog as a deterrent?
Yeah, So I think the dogs are the best psychological deterrent ever.
100.
Yeah, and I think I've never got any too many resisting arrests or really that many fights. 'Cause I think I ran a dog most of my career,
Right.
And I think they knew I had a dog. They were barked or whatever. I pulled it out. It all completely changes,
100%, man. Yeah. I mean, the Unitrol, the light controls, right? Goes clicking. Your dog. I mean, my dog went batshit crazy when he heard the clicking or the sirens. I mean, the dogs are amazing, and I think the key, and I don't want to interrupt your story about a day in the life of canine, but the key to being, and probably the most glorious thing about being a canine handler, in my opinion, and I'm sure it's yours, first of all, you have to love the dogs.
Yes, 100%.
Now, there's alternating arguments on what the dogs are, but to us as handlers, yes, they are a tool.
Yes.
100%. But they're part of our families.
Yes.
And you're going to things on the street in calls that are hot, and your dog's with you, and just the bond that is created. It starts at the 4 or 5 week class,
Mm-hmm.
but really the bonding is at home,
Yes.
in the car,
Mm-hmm.
training on duty, training off duty. The bond to me is, I mean, my shepherd went with me more than my family.
I know, right?
Everywhere, dude. Right?
Yeah.
I set up my pickup truck just so he was comfortable. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't do kennels at the time. I had a carpet kit in the back of my truck,
Okay,
so
yeah.
he was comfortable, dude. I mean,
yeah, it's a good setup.
and I think, as a manager, as a trainer, like, you've probably seen guys or gals that maybe don't click with their dogs.
Yeah, I mean, we really tried it, especially, well, in South City, I can control who comes in our unit, and we really want to see the commitment in the vetted, and then they really, truly love what they're going to do, because it's a big commitment. People don't realize, like, if, the only time you're not supposed to be at training if you're out of town on vacation.
Right.
If it's a stay-home vacation, I want you at training.
Oh,
If
good.
you work graveyard, I want you at training the next morning. I don't care. We need you at training.
Good.
So that's what for us is like before we even have an opening, I want to see these candidates come out, show me what you can do this commitment,
Yeah.
Because I remember with Roy Varney, when I got off FTO, I went to him like, I want to be a canine handler. And he's like, you got a year more before you're off probation. And I was like, and you couldn't be a canine handler until you're off probation, which is a year and a half. And I said, okay. I'm like, what do I got to do? He's like, come to training. So from that day, I went to training every day, and it was like, that's the kind of commitment I want from my handlers.
For sure.
Well,
and it's good exposure, right? Like, they they take bites as a decoy.
Yes, you do.
Yep. You hide.
Yes.
And you see the capabilities of these animals.
Mm-hmm.
How fast they can, from the announcement at the door, which we can cover as well,
Mm-hmm.
to when they find the bad guy or gal. it's pretty amazing to watch. And as a handler, that's so gratifying.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to pay your dues. I had to do the same thing. And
Right.
every handler that we promoted to handler, yeah, I haven't seen you at training,
Yeah. Right.
right? I haven't seen you take a bite.
Yeah.
You know, well, sorry, man, you're not really committed to it because it's a lifestyle. You take it home with you
It is. It's 100% true.
more than anything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So go back to, all right. So Lieutenant Mahon, I'm here. I'm Jeff Downs. I'm a new canine handler. I'm freaking fired up. I'm gonna go out and get my first apprehension tonight, right? And you're like, yeah, all right, pump the brakes, kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. So take me back in it. You got the cars. You're setting the cars up. We got the door poppers. We got the cages that protect the dogs. Your patrol cars are. I know Danny was in charge of them for a while. I think, right?
Yes.
They're just pristine. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does a good job. He did a
But
good
we
job
do
with
miss South City Car Wash because
it. Yes.
that was the place where we'd all go, right? Get our cars cleaned. But all right, so he gets in the car, gets his beat assignment. Are your canine handlers set to a beat, or are they like a city car, rover car?
Most of the time, they're set on a beat. So they got to handle paper calls, and they got to pay attention to canine calls, and then so it's not like we're a big edge like LAPD. They can just run dog calls all day long, you know.
Right.
So they got to do a lot more than just run, you know.
Oh, you mean it's not an excuse to get out of paper?
Yeah.
Wait,
no,
what?
They try.
They
try.
Right? You have to, right? You
Yeah.
have to. That's the first thing a canine handler.
Yeah.
So equipment-wise, what do you guys run for equipment? What do you require for your teams?
So I give them a couple different leashes depending on what they're doing, detection or patrol. I like the mesh vests to have on the dogs. I think the military started coming out with that like 5 or 6 years ago, and I really like running that dog because you can track with it. You can hook the dog on there. If you just need it for whatever you might use, you have that harness on there. You can
Right.
put like a little mesh vest for them. We also, all of our dogs do have bulletproof vests, but they don't wear it during their everyday patrol because it's so heavy. You know, it's like
Right.
5 pounds, so a dog can't handle that on their weight. It's just going to cause problems in the future. So,
Right.
if they ever go in a situation, which hopefully they wouldn't have to, then we put the vest on them.
So, and I know
The
that's
bulletproof vest.
another segue into. I know some of your dogs are skids dogs.
Yes.
So, and if you don't know what skids is, it's a I don't know the actual acronym each word.
SWAT canine interdiction or something like that. Yeah, it's something like that.
So they're SWAT dogs,
Yes.
and they go through a real extensive school to become skid certified with their handler. And I believe Chris is.
Yeah, Chris is, and we got 2 other. Daniel Finnegan. Yeah.
Oh, Finnegan, the shit
Yes.
magnet.
Yeah. Yes, he is. Justin Sakurai is, and then we're probably sending Rick Arenas too there.
Okay.
But Amanda's also certified, you know.
That's right. I remember she went through with Storm, her first dog,
Yes,
right?
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my God, I remember Amanda coming up to our parish festival when she first got Storm, and I had my Mal, and he was about, I don't know, less than a year old.
Okay, yeah.
And she had Storm, and Storm was just like, oh my God, this badass Dutchie, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, and she was floating, man. She's like, I'm a freaking canine handler. Look at my dog. It was amazing. I still remember that moment. She probably doesn't, but
Oh,
yeah, I
she loves
remember
that dog. It took her so much. She just retired her dog.
I
and
remember. Yeah.
I was trying to convince her, and it took so long. But now she realized that it was the good thing to retire Storm.
Yeah. How old was Storm? Probably 10-ish?
Yeah, 10-ish, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she was still working great and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then even Amanda admitted, she's like, oh, when I got this new dog, I realized that Storm was slowing down a little bit. You know?
Yeah. And you know what? Like, I just retired my bomb dog, and he's 8.
Okay.
Right? But I don't think people understand, like, working dogs in and out of patrol cars,
Yes.
the obstacle courses that they go through tunnels, up over fences. I mean, especially Malinois, you know, and Dutchies, Shepherds too, but Mal's just, I basically are spraying with fur on them.
Yes.
You know, the wear and tear. It's just like an officer wearing all the gear in and out of the car, hopping fences. It's something you have to take into consideration as a handler. And at some point, what's right for the dog, right?
Exactly.
You know,
100%.
let them have a retirement. They've earned it.
Yes.
You know, and as they get older, it gets more expensive, and their medical bills pile up. So, like, if you ever want a cause to donate to your local canine, you know, units in different departments, because I've done donation drives for our unit, got a couple dogs donated from some very generous people. But like, we always need money, and I think the way administrators look at it, which is spot on, is dogs cost money.
Yeah.
You know, and handlers do get paid extra because they have to put in all that extra work and training and time. So it's not something that we get money for, revenue generating, unless you're using the dogs for narcotic seizures and things like that. And I don't know if you guys do that a lot.
Yeah, we do that now.
Tell me about that, because I wanted to, and I just never got so up on it. Like, how many cases does that happen a year? Maybe one or two that you can do it, or
Well, so I was one of the first. I might have been San Mateo County. I was the first person to be assigned DEA as a task force officer. So the Drug Enforcement Administration has their special agents, but they have no dogs. They're the premier drug law enforcement agency in the world, but they have no drug dogs.
that's funny.
So they rely on local agencies basically getting loaned out to you for however long the agency decides it, and then you can be on different task forces. And then I just able to come with my dog and my first dog and start working with him over there. And we mostly did interdiction of just monitoring the drugs and the drug money that's coming in and out of the Bay Area. But was very lucrative.
I can imagine.
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of money involved with that. So I mean, the dogs, we'll get into it more, but what they're capable of doing, it's unbelievable. So
Yeah.
sorry, I keep bouncing around because all these things keep popping into my head about just your experience is vastly more than mine in canine, and I'd love to pick people's brains about it.
Yeah.
Especially, I've been out of the game for 13 years now, so like, it's changed so much.
Training has changed a lot, especially the training side of it.
Yeah, and being a handler and having dogs is something that's in the news, right? I mean, we're talking about assembly bills that are talking about limiting the use of canines, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, I'm sure you're up on that.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So what was it? 6 months ago, the bill went to the first level, and it got a lot more steam than I think we all thought it would got, and it got passed for the first level, and then we started getting involved, the canine trainers and handlers throughout California, and then all of a sudden it just got dropped.
Okay.
I think it's going to come up again.
Okay.
It's just when it is. But yeah, they basically said they didn't want to use police dogs for apprehension at all. Just either detection or tracking and stuff like that. But like how dogs work is you want to make it a dual purpose dog. You want to make an apprehension dog and a detection dog.
Right.
Because you're basically going to pay the same amount of money.
Right.
So why don't you just add on the more stuff? Because these dogs can do so much. They can track, they can find drugs, they can find guns, they can apprehend,
Yeah.
And let's use them to the most of their ability.
I agree. And the capability enhancement that it gives you as a patrol lieutenant, let's say, I've got to search Tanforan Mall, for example. Yes. I don't have a dog. Well, what are you going to do, right? Mutual aid. I need a dog. Because we know that those dogs will clear that entire area in half the time it would take a human team to do that.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And I mean, just I never knew what it meant when I became a new handler. I was told always announce that you're sending the dog if you don't surrender, etc. And I was like, okay, cool. That's liability wise, right?
Yeah.
We have to, legally, we have to give an announcement, let somebody surrender before we use the canine. And I had an old senior salty handler come up to me, and I'm guessing you know him. He just passed away, unfortunately. Ron Reed.
Okay.
Yeah, Ron was an old salty canine guy, and back in their day, the dog did everything, right?
Yeah.
He came up to me and goes, "Hey, yeah, you're all this legal stuff. Yeah. You got it. But do you want to know why it really is good to do that?" And I go, "Why?" He goes, "Because the bad guy starts sweating." And I go, "Oh." He goes, "And all that sweat is more odor."
Yeah,
and I'm
true.
like, "Oh, makes sense."
Right,
I'll never forget that. So, yeah, I think taking away a tool from you all on the street right now, and the dog is an amazing tool to have, is tying one hand behind your back.
Yes.
That's my opinion. As I'm biased, obviously, I was a handler and a police officer, but I can de-escalate situations, as you mentioned earlier, having that dog.
Yes.
And may not have to use force, right? So to take that ability away is contradictory to the thinking now of most citizens.
Yes.
And you know, as a handler, you see these, or as a lieutenant, or as a trainer, you see this come down. It's like, oh my gosh, what next, right? You know, how am I supposed to do this?
Yeah.
And as I'm sure you're in staff meetings where they say, "Hey, this bill 742 came down. Marty, are we going to need to get rid of our dogs? What are we doing?"
I know, right?
And the kind of pressure that puts on you as not only a lieutenant that's in charge of the unit, you know the value of it.
Yeah.
And it's, if you haven't been a handler, you don't know it. So it's incumbent upon administrations to look at people like you and say, "Hey, what do you think from your professional subject matter expertise? What do you think about this AB 742?
Yeah.
Is it real? Is it going to have legs? What?" I mean,
yeah. And what I saw was impressive is when people started getting involved, the law enforcement side, there was a lot of support, like by the police, the California Police Chief Association, the Sheriff Association. Like they were really backing it. So you realize they do like our canines, they do like the programs we have. So I think with them getting involved, we had a little more weight with us and stuff like that. But like you talked about, it's the best de-escalation tool we have out there.
Oh yeah.
And by far, and what things they didn't talk about in that, they had a big first meeting in Sacramento, and there's people that were talking that didn't have much experience with canines. But what they didn't talk about is the stats. And I'm not sure what the exact stat is now, but police dogs across the United States, since they've been around, so say since the 1950s, we'll say over 70 years, there's only been 7 deaths from a police dog bite throughout the United States. And there's probably 20 bites throughout the United States a night through all these police canine agencies that are out there.
Right.
And you're telling me there's only 7 deaths on that? And how many from taser is there deaths been?
Right.
How many from, obviously our firearms? How many from batons,
Sure.
All our less lethal tools. And you want to take away the one that causes the least amount of death?
Yeah.
You want to take that away, So to that, they never talked about that kind of stats.
And I think, public opinion is what they see on videos. People that weren't even alive back in the 60s see a police officer using a canine for crowd control.
Yes.
And the violence of that video they see is all their impression is of what canines are. And is that a tool that was used? Yes.
Yes.
Won't deny that. Absolutely. We were all trained on crowd control with our canines. Don't do that anymore.
No,
really.
That's
been gone years.
Yeah, 20 years plus. Like
At
I never even
least.
tried to use mine for a crowd control. My first
Right.
dog,
Exactly. I mean, because one, it's may not be the proper use of force.
Yes.
And 2, your dog could get hurt,
Yes.
or he could bite an officer that's on the line. It happens.
Yeah.
But I think that the public opinion is swayed by images, right?
Yes. And that they keep showing that one image back in the day,
Right. Riot helmets, people protesting at colleges, dogs biting.
Yes.
And it's terrible to watch, but we don't do that anymore.
No,
Our dogs are so trained by guys like this and his staff that they're very conscious of liability, very conscious of public opinion. And
Yeah.
I think AB 742 probably manifested itself from public opinion,
Yes, it did.
right?
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. And, tell me, like, what ripple effect did it have, more so than what you've already stated? Did you guys talk about it at your trainings?
Yeah, so we started getting more proactive, and I was involved with. We took some of the top trainers throughout California and some of the top vendors that are doing police dogs, and what we were going to come up with, what we work under, most agencies in California work under Lexipol. It's our policies and procedures.
Sure.
What we can do from use of force to our uniform for whatever, when we can eat lunch or whatever. All agencies have it, and it says for the canines, it says when you can use your dog. Serious crime. They're either hiding, they're going to commit a crime, about to commit a crime, a serious crime, or they're hiding from us, or they're avoiding capture. So it's in there to limit when we can use our dogs, which I think it needs to be there and how it is now. But there's no guidelines for it. And so what I mean by this is, say, like, you as a handler, you're like, okay, at a stolen vehicle, it runs from me and the guy runs. Okay, I can use my dog because it's a serious crime in my mind. Now I come on scene, I'm like, I get the same scenario. Stolen car, the guy runs. I'm like, well, it might be a property crime. Maybe I shouldn't use. Is that a serious crime to me compared to you? We're both not right or wrong. So we're trying to come up with some guidelines saying, like, hey, on these certain type of calls, you can use your dog. On these calls, you can't use your dog unless you have other factors in there. So we're trying, because we feel that they're going to make guidelines for us. So we want to try to make the guidelines to present to them, and then we negotiate what's best for everybody, the public and for us, so we can use our dogs, effectively and stuff like that.
Is that still the reasonable officer standard? Does that still apply, or has that kind of been relegated?
Yeah, it's a reasonable standard, still,
Okay,
and stuff like that. But it's just these handlers have different opinions of when you can dog, and they're not right or wrong. It's just everybody decides what they want to do.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's just I think we need to have a little better guidelines.
Yeah, and I think obviously it's important to have those guidelines, those general orders, those Lexipol. Lexipol was brand new when I was a cop.
Right,
yeah, it was crazy. But that's great. I think you have to have that.
Yeah.
My concern, and I think it's a concern of everybody, is like, as an officer, I have to evaluate so many things so quickly in that split second.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking policies. I'm thinking liability. I'm thinking media. I'm thinking somebody filming me, right? All those things that happen. If the guidelines aren't too restrictive and you're not pigeonholing people too much, I think it helps the officer make a better decision.
Right.
That's just my opinion. But yeah, I mean, I can see where this would head. I hope it dies.
Yeah.
And because I think everybody's so conscious of it now, and I
Mhm.
think municipalities in general get it. You
Yes.
know, get it. Like, we're not putting our dogs out there to bite everybody.
Mhm.
We're just not.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a fact. So
Yeah, it's true. And people don't realize their main job is a locating tool.
yes,
That's all they're made to locate someone that we can't see or we can't find because
Yeah.
their sense is their smell is so great. And then we decide if we're gonna use them to apprehend. You know, everything you did, it was mostly to locate someone. You know.
You got any good stories about that? I mean, like, I think we all have good tracking stories or funny stories where your dog does something during the middle of something.
Yeah, where your dog embarrasses you every day.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh,
All
I
three of
have
my
a good one
dogs.
too. Yeah, yeah.
It was my first dog, Max or Maximus. He was a big German Shepherd like we all had back in the day.
Oh yeah.
And I think we just got done with like my in-house training because in South City we did all our in-house training. It took a little longer, but we got it all done. And I remember it was over in South City over on in our Rosewood, Brentwood area, and alarm comes out at a dance studio, and I'm right around the corner. And I get there, I'm the first on scene. I pull up right to the front. I'm
Here
like,
we go.
and I see the front doors pried open. I'm like, this is awesome. Like there's no way they're still inside.
Yeah.
So I wait till my cover officer come. I do my announcement, and then no one comes out. I'm like, okay. So I sent my dog. I remember I sent the dog in. You know, it was a big entryway and where the reception to office was. And if you go right to a hallway, and then you make a left to the dance studio. So he goes and he shoots right and shoots left. And then I hear a big commotion. I hear him growling, I hear stuff knocking over, and I'm like, hey, I think he's got someone. Let's go, guys. So it's completely dark, you know.
Yeah.
So we make the turn towards the dance studio, and I light him up. And he went after one of those big yoga balls and just was popping and thrashing it around. And everybody's just laughing at me, and I'm just like, you're mad, but you can't be mad.
Right.
You're like, oh, man, you just embarrassed me. And then so I got him past that, and then the guys were gone by that time I got there. They got out quicker than I was there. But,
Oh man.
but I thought it was my first apprehension of that dog, and I was super excited.
Well, he
But-
did apprehend something.
Yeah, he's got a
It's
big yoga ball that we had to pay for. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah,
You
right?
got to frame that thing, man.
Yeah.
Deflated yoga ball.
I know, yeah.
Maximus's first apprehension. Oh, that's hilarious, man. They're so, you know, as handlers, you get so stoked when you're like, you see it. This is in progress. This is good. This is
Yeah.
why I have this dog. And I had one where it was a burglary alarm,
Mm-hmm.
and I was with my sergeant was my cover officer, so you
Yeah.
know how that goes, right? So he was a real green dog, and I sent him, right? He goes in, and there's a ceiling fan going. Dude, I'm telling you, he hit the deck so fast
Oh, really?
and started low crawling backwards. Oh my God. I was like, "Hey, what are you doing? My
Yeah.
sergeant's here, man. You got to search." I mean, it was the funniest thing. And I had no idea. He obviously had something in his babyhood, his puppyhood,
Yeah, it's a
where,
rough
you know,
look.
something above him scared him. But how mortifying, man.
I know,
Got this
right?
badass dog.
Yeah.
He's barking like crazy. And all of a sudden, boom, he's low crawling out of the place. Oh, and I'll never live that one down.
Yeah, they embarrass you a lot, but it's worth it. You know, you laugh later about it and stuff like that, you know?
You do. Greatest job in the world.
Oh,
I mean,
100%.
were you tactical SWAT guy?
No, I was never a SWAT guy.
Okay.
We used my last dog for a lot of entries we did with DEA, like for search warrants.
Gotcha.
So I got that tactical side of it.
Right, right.
But never on SWAT or anything like that kind of stuff.
What's the best job you've had? Be honest.
Uh,
Take your rank out of it since
Yeah.
being a cop
being a DEA task force with my dog.
with the dog.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
got to get I mean, I basically got a whole new playground to work my dog, especially on the detection side, in which I loved working that stuff. And just, you know, I got to do some real cool stuff with him, you know?
Yeah,
Get some
I-
great finds.
I'll get back to our new officer and his first
Yeah.
day as a K-9 officer. This is the fun part of talking with somebody like Marty. Is, you know, when you reference having a dual purpose dog,
Mm-hmm.
detection of some sort.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what that means? Our audience may not know
Oh, yeah.
what a dual purpose dog does, how they're trained, etc. If you could let us
Yeah.
know.
So, back in the day, it was more of either if you're detection, either a drug dog or a bomb dog. And now, over the last 3 or 4 years, since the crime on drugs has changed a little bit, they're lesser crime. We started training our dogs in firearm detection.
Oh, very good.
So half our dogs in South City, we were one of the first agencies in San Mateo County to train on firearms. You know, so now half my dogs are trained on firearms and half are on drug drugs. And I'm getting more used to the firearm dogs than I am for the drug dogs now.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool.
Using them in the schools or?
No, like if they do search warrants or
Okay.
like whatever they bring the dogs out, or if they believe, because now a lot of people carry guns, so
Yeah.
we use them to search cars. Detection dog will never search a person.
Right.
We don't train for that, but just different areas. And it was pretty cool. Our first dog was Adam Kerrigan, his dog Tex, and I remember they were on the streets for a quick minute, and then they got called for Brisbane because Brisbane had interrupted home invasion, and they had taken a couple guns, and the guys ran through fields, and then they threw. We didn't know if they threw the guns or not, but they couldn't find the guns, so they apprehended the guys later. So Adam came out a day later, searched a major field, found both guns with this dog, and he called me. He was so excited, and then like Brisbane was like, "Oh, this is great." So after that, I was like, "Yeah, full speed ahead. We're gonna be all half our dogs gonna be gun dogs now."
So you, for those that don't know, a dog can sense and smell so many things.
Yes.
But you have to imprint them
Yes.
on certain things, and without giving away trade secrets, obviously. How do you go about imprinting?
Yeah, so when we went to the gun site, I was like, okay, I talked to a couple of trainers and how they did it, but we basically train it how we train either if it's drugs, guns, or firearms. I'm doing the same kind of imprint training. We use what's called the box theory. We use Dutch boxes for that, and it works real well. And we got it pretty dialed in now. We just did a Brisbane dog, and I imprinted it on guns in 2 days.
Wow.
So
That's fast.
The dog is amazing. It's learning fast, but 2 to 4 days I can imprint. I mean, they still got to go through more training and learn more, but just the dog recognizes the odor.
Yeah.
And it's just so quick now.
So you're putting gun pieces, parts,
Mm-hmm.
solutions, ammunition, etc., in these boxes,
Mm-hmm.
and you're sending the dogs on a search for those things, and you do it. How many reps do you think they do
on the boxes
to really be imprinted, on, say, ammunition?
At least like 50 to 100, probably at least. So that's just off the boxes. Then we're doing, so many multiple after that.
Right.
It's just rep after rep, so they understand it.
And they, like I remember doing explosive detection training at the Oakland Coliseum with Loring.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, and Loring was training with another agency locally, and he was able to bring some narcotics as well for his other dog. So we're training, and I remember he had put something out in the area we were training for bomb work, and he just wanted to see dog behavior, see if they would pick up on something other than explosive odor.
Mm-hmm.
And sure as shit, every one of these dogs, not necessarily finalizing on the odor, but they would smell the methamphetamine odor and be distracted and brought to that area, but couldn't pinpoint.
Right.
And it was very interesting to see that they've never been imprinted on narcotics. Our dogs weren't at the time, but they were still able to sense it. So, like, the dog's sense of smell is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's amazing what they can.
What is it, 1,200, 2,000 times that of a human or something to that effect?
Yeah, what do they say? It's like we can smell the size of a stamp, but the dog can smell like the whole length of its body. It's just crazy what
It
they
is
smell.
crazy. No, that's cool. I mean, I think being a handler is one of the best jobs you can have. It's not only the cool factor, but it's so rewarding in times like that where you send your dog out on a long line into a huge field, and they're article searching and they find 2 discarded firearms.
Yeah.
I mean, that...
Which wouldn't, no one would... They already looked at it. They couldn't find them, and like, could a kid got that? Could anybody ran across that?
Yeah.
So to that, it was great getting the gun back to homeowners, but we took a safety issue, factor out of this whole
Absolutely.
equation with this dog now.
And Brisbane, and I know their budgets are significantly lower than the rest. They see that, and their administration says, "Hey, maybe we need dogs."
Yep.
And that's when you say, "Hey, this is one of our dogs. I can help you."
Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean that network is so huge because they see the capability of the dogs.
Right.
And I have a story that I told once before. Same thing on a track. A neighboring agency didn't have dogs, and my dog found a guy that was peeping and trying to rape people in their town, and they said, "We're getting dogs," and they did shortly thereafter.
Oh wow!
Because they saw the capability firsthand of what the value is of them.
Yeah.
He didn't bite anybody. He didn't do anything crazy. He tracked and located the guy. So getting back to our rookie canine officer. Sorry, I mean, I love this. I love just BSing, dude. We can, dude. This is the best part. They have all their equipment now. They're outfitting their car. They go hit their beat. They're responding to calls. What do you expect from them on a daily basis as their lieutenant?
I really want them to be proactive to use a dog and kind of get creative. Like, even though it might be alarmed, that same place, just take the dog out of the car. Don't leave the dog in the car. You never know what you can encounter. Like if some people stop, a car stops, see if you can use your dog. Detection side is just to search it. Just be proactive with their dogs, because we got to show our command staff is who are using these dogs.
Right.
These are our stats, is how much we're using them per week, per month. Because if you're not using it, then they're like, why do we have it at the end of the day? So,
right.
I expect them to really be out there and trying to use the dogs and their capabilities.
Now, let's just say in the situation of an apprehension with canine, they obviously will notify you as the canine lieutenant. Their chain of command, their immediate chain of command, is obviously involved. Is there anything that happens to the dog, the handler? Is there any investigations? How do you guys handle things like that?
No, unless it's something which I've never experienced, is something that they shouldn't use a dog on something like that. But for us, it's just what happens is, once they write the report, either Chris and I will look at it and put our initials on it or our remarks on it that it was approved by us. It's compared to another sergeant that has no idea about canine world and what should be in the reports. And since it is a use of force, we want us to look over and make sure, hey, you do that. And we do that for other agencies too. They send us reports. Can you look at this real quick? And we're like, yeah, change this, add that, and explain why you did this or why you didn't do something like that. You got to be very detailed in these reports.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think I used to tell my recruits, it's a film script.
Right. Yes.
Because somebody you don't know is going to read it, and you need them to see and hear and feel what the officer felt and did.
Yes.
That's important. And so you help other agencies with the review of that. Are you seeing any uptick or downslide of usage of canines since 742 was talked about?
I think it's been the same. I think crime's going up, so dogs are getting used more.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So
yeah,
it seems like in the apprehension world, it seems like it's a common pace. Like we don't get a lot of bites in South City. Maybe we'll get 2 or 3 a year, but it's in like steady like that.
Yeah. So all right, so I'm out. I'm having fun as a canine handler. I go to my maintenance training, which we have to do. You have to train. As we mentioned earlier, if you don't train your dog, the dog is going to show it right away.
Yes.
And again, it comes back to a liability standpoint as well. If I'm not training and my dog does something out of order, out of policy, because I'm not training, there's a lot more to it than just a handler getting in trouble.
Yes.
The litigation that follows that is big, because municipalities have deep pockets, unfortunately. But I would say that the most gratifying, satisfying thing is having a dog that is dialed in.
Yes.
And being able to take your dog from working graveyards, grinding it, to a demonstration with 8-year-olds.
Right. Yes.
And tell us about that, because I think a lot of people don't understand that the dogs are able to turn it on and off for the most part.
Yeah, and that's one thing when we test these dogs. We spend 2 or 3 days testing these dogs. Like the first thing I'm looking at, are they social? Can anybody come up and pet them and stuff like that? As long as they're not doing their job and stuff like that. But if we're just hanging out, can I come up and pet them? How are they going to react to that? Because I think that's a big part of it. And with us, we do a lot of canine demos, and we were starting to get pulled to like other schools not in our city.
Right.
And we sort of backed away from that. But if it's a family or a friend, we might go help their school out and do a demo. But the demos are big for us, our demonstrations. We show the capabilities of our dogs and stuff like that, but it's just the meet and greet after. Like I put handlers in different areas, go up and meet the dogs, go talk to the handlers, and it helps us build the bond with the community, because now we talk about something we both have a common interest in, a dog.
Right.
Everybody loves dogs.
Right.
And it's pretty cool. I remember we were doing our community academy. It was all the Hispanic community in South City, and they were taking a bunch of pictures, and I was talking to a lady, and I said, well, here, hold my leash and I'll take your picture. And she's standing there so happy and smiling and so proud. And I'm taking a bunch of pictures, and I'm like, because he's cool. He just sit there and just like, cool, I'll take a picture of you.
Right.
And what you don't realize, and I tell my handlers, like, that one picture, I guarantee she's going to post social media. And then someone else is going to tag it. And then it's going to spread, and that's what we want to spread. Like, these dogs are great tools. They're super social. We're friendly. We're building the bond with our community, and let's get it out there,
Yeah.
Back in the day, I was like, no pictures, no videos of our dogs, we don't know what they're going to do.
Right.
But now I'm like, dude, take as many pictures and videos you want.
Yeah.
Pump it out
I
there.
saw your guys out at National Night Out.
Yes, right.
Recently, yeah. I mean, the PR aspect of it's not simply for PR. It's like you say, and you may have changed that lady's total outlook on what a police canine and a police officer are that night, that very moment, right?
Yeah.
Oh, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And I think the traction you get, not only with parents that say, "Hey, if you're not behaving, I'm going to have him come arrest you," right? But they see that the dogs are just like my dog at home, except this is a working dog,
Yeah.
right? The officer, yeah, he's got a big scary uniform on and all that stuff, but he's talking to me like we're friends.
Right.
That outreach, I think, is critical.
Yes.
It's better than, I mean, I was a motor cop, so, look at my Harley, right?
Yeah.
Or look at my Harley. I know all your motor guys will get mad at me for that, but yeah, it's cool, but the dogs, man, they always connect. They always connect. Some of them are scary, but those are the dogs that we don't take to demos usually.
Yeah.
I remember doing several demos, and I took so much from it, of the impact that it can make on maybe somebody that's just never been around it or scared.
Right. Yeah.
That's so huge, man. And I appreciate you guys. I see your socials, and you guys do a good job on that with South City, and I admire you guys and gals. It's just hard to be out there, and those positive events that you guys will generate and do and be a part of, which you're very active. That department's very active. I'm very proud to be a South City resident. I truly am.
Thank
and
you.
I try to put that out on social media, not just because I'm friends with many of you, but you guys do a really, really good job. And I've always been proud of South City PD. I was asked to be on oral boards with some of your folks back in the day for their promotions, and I was on SWAT with most of your command staff. Now most of them have retired, but you guys have always done such an amazing job and have always been very, very conscious of your community.
Yes.
Your officers, your reputation within the county has always been, in my opinion, very high. And it's because of folks like you that I think take the job seriously, but also take what you do and what you manage seriously. And being a canine lieutenant, I mean, that's totally gratifying. I was a canine sergeant for a little while. There's a little more stuff that comes with that as a supervisor. But you get to take it from work to your business and pass it along.
Yeah.
And take rookie cops that are rookie handlers and mold them, teach them the right way. And I think that's where Trident Canine comes in. Probably one of the premier, in San Mateo County at least, training companies and agencies, if you will, because you get it and you know the pulse of our county, you know the pulse of our state.
Yes.
And the dogs that you're putting out, I see them everywhere.
Yeah.
And I say, is that a Trident dog? Is that a Trident dog? And everybody's saying, yeah, they're Trident dogs. I think it's great because that is so valuable to our communities, is having a legitimately good trainer, legitimately conscientious training group, administrators that trust them and buy their dogs.
Yeah.
That's huge. And I'm grateful for that, in Trident. And I know lots of dogs. So I'm going to ask you, I already know my answer because I own one.
Yeah.
Now, with your experience working a shepherd, have you worked a Mal?
Yeah, I worked 2 Malinois.
Have you worked a Dutchie?
No, I have not.
Have you worked any other type of dog?
No, besides just training it or handling it, but no.
Okay. Your choice for most productive, I'll say, patrol cross-trained dog.
The one thing I am big on, I like little dogs.
Okay.
I like little dogs that are fast, that can search well, because you can move them around. You can get them in cars. You can put them, if you had to put them in an attic, you can move. I love, because my first dog was like your shepherd, probably like 90 plus pounds.
Yes.
And it's just a lot. But I like to. I'm kind of up in the air about which is my favorite because each one of my dogs brought something different.
Right.
But I've seen some amazing shepherds come through, and I've seen some amazing Malinois. It's funny that you talk about the Dutch shepherds and Amanda. They the Europeans, either they hate them.
Right.
He said that they're too much or they're not enough. But they know us Americans love them, so that's why they sell them as Dutch shepherds. Gotcha. So it's just interesting. But yeah, I mean, the Dutch shepherds I've seen they're a lot of dogs. Yeah, and a Malinois, coming from a shepherd background, my first dog, oh my gosh, it's just polar opposite. Right. Yes, 100%. They are crazy. Yeah. In the respect of they will work until they drop. Yes, they will not stop. Yeah, it's like on and off. That's it. Yeah. That's all the 2 switches they have, and I can see the value in that, especially in the military. Do you guys do any military work? No, I've trained with a couple. We haven't done we don't train them officially, you know.
Okay.
But I've worked with them in different locations and stuff like that, and seen how they work their dogs.
Is that something you would do? Consider?
Possibly, you know.
Yeah.
And see what their missions are, what they want to do. It's pretty cool that they're out there using their dogs, and they're very successful with their dogs out there, especially their detection ones.
Oh yeah. I mean, imagine the lives that have been saved.
Yeah. Oh,
And
100%.
Again, it comes back, and I know we can talk all day on this, and I'm sure you have things to do back at work, but like it comes back to, we have a dog, we have a tool, yes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people look at it, and I know my military friends that are handlers, and you probably know the same. They do look at them as tools because in some cases they give their dogs back at the end of their shift.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me.
I know, 100%. Yeah.
Right? And they are a tool in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Once their deployments are done, I think it's changing now. You might know more than I, but once their deployments are done, their dogs aren't going with them.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah.
And
It's crazy.
It's crazy. And it's the old question. Do you send your dog on a man with a knife? Do you send your dog on a man with a gun?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that is our expectation, because if you and I are at the door and it's the difference between our dogs and us,
Yeah.
I mean, it's an easy question, and I think it's a dilemma that we all face as handlers. And do you talk to your new folks about that kind of thing, the mental side of it, the psychological things, the effects?
Yeah, I think it's always a constant conversation with them, like, hey, this is a tool. I mean, I loved all three of my dogs. I cried crazy when they all passed away, but it's just like they are a tool, and I'd rather a canine get injured than an officer get injured any day of the week, know. But we're also very smart when we use them. Like, if someone with a gun, like, hey, okay, we're going to have the dog there, but is this a SWAT call out now? Let's call timeout. Let's slow things down, But stuff comes up unexpectedly, Like one of my good friends at Wichita Police Department out in Kansas City, like his dog got shot in line of duty right in front of him,
Oh, gosh.
And it was just like, it was horrible for him. And he showed me the videos, went through the story with me, because that was the first time I ever heard someone had that, and it's pretty crazy,
Can't imagine.
I know, right?
And now with body cams, that stuff's right there.
I know, right?
I couldn't imagine. Yeah, but you make a good point. It's a sacrifice we might be called upon to make, and then the dog would make the ultimate sacrifice. And I keep track of it, as you do, I'm sure. There's been a lot of canines that have been killed in line of duty recently.
Yeah, they're going up there, and I don't know what, just because it's getting more dangerous society, or I know the handlers are making the right choice, but just stuff pops up, you don't unexpected.
Yeah. So my canine rookie officer completes their shift, right? And what happens to the dog? What do you guys do with your dogs?
So all our dogs go home with us, and then they're responsible for taking care of them and stuff like that. And they live with the family, and I recommend to all either it's through Trident or if it's through South City, like, hey, it's not a pet. First and foremost, you got to remember that you can't sleep in your bed. Now, do some of my dogs, does Daniel Finnegan dog sleep with him in his bed? 100% every night, But I got some dogs that like whatever it is. But to me, I'm like,
not bad,
different
not bad.
than back in the early 2000s, and they could be, they got to know the difference between work life and home life. When they come to work, they got to know what their job is, and it can't blend together. If someone's playing with a dog all day long at home, friends are coming over. Then when they come to work, they're like, "Oh, it's playtime when I'm here. This person was just in my house. I'm gonna go play with them." But it's like, no, we gotta. And I've seen some dogs fail out of programs, that were amazing in training, but when it came to real life stuff, they wouldn't do their job, and we had to, retire that dog to the handler or whatever it might be.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, they got to know. Mine did. I put him in a 6x12 kennel out in the backyard when I first got him, and he knew rest time for him. And as soon as I popped that kennel door, it was food and let's go to work.
Yeah, right.
And they do have that switch, and I think it's cool. I mean, the bond, you have to have it.
Yes.
And the socialization as well. So I love that aspect of taking the dog home. So to kind of summarize being a canine handler, which is the greatest job in the world.
Absolutely.
So if you're ever a cop and you want to do something cool, become a canine handler. Put the work in, learn how to do it right. Listen to Marty and people like Marty who will teach you, will train your dog the right way. Don't look at the dog as, I'm a badass, I'm going to send my dog on everything. Be smart. You have to be smart. And I think it's important that young cops understand the climate they're in now.
Mm-hmm.
and the tools that they have at their disposal, because
Yes.
everything is limited. But being a dog handler is so gratifying. It's just the best thing in the world. Having a partner with you really all the time is great. You have your cover with you for the most part all the time.
Yeah, right?
It's great. And I thank you, and like I love being around dog trainers. You guys are special. I'll just say that, right? Because it takes a lot.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to dedicate your life to training these dogs and doing it. And I'm grateful for folks like you and your company, because you offer something to the communities that they can trust.
Yes, right?
I mean, if you didn't put out good dogs and good handlers, you're not in business anymore. So
Yeah.
I see Trident as being, a premier company to work with. And if you're listening from any agencies that you don't work with Marty yet, do it, because he's right here. He's still an active lieutenant. He's on the streets with his people every night. He sees what's needed, and the training evolves to fit those needs. And I think that's important. I mean, you can be a canine trainer, but if you're off the streets for 30 years, you really don't know.
Yeah, no, and I think that's what's coming around now. We see we're trying to collaborate, and you're seeing some of these, they're just dog trainers. They never worked in law enforcement, and they use their dogs for sport work, like PSA or the Shits,
Sure.
and they're starting to train the police dogs, and they're amazing dog trainers. But I tell some agencies when they ask about these companies, I'm like, well, you got a kid that is the best at Call of Duty. He's the best in the world. Is he going to come out and train a SWAT team?
Right.
Has he ever been in a critical incident?
Right.
Does he understand? Has he ever testified in court? Has he wrote a report? And that's what I want to make sure all of our trainers are. They're law enforcement. They work dogs, so they understand how what it's like being a critical incident. Like when there's people yelling and screaming, and people running, and like how are you going to manage your dog in that? 'Cause you can't recreate that in training.
Right.
And we're trying to collaborate with some of these. Some are very on board. Some are like, no, we're doing our own thing, which I respect, as their business. But they have a lot of wealth and knowledge, these private trainers, and we have a lot of wealth and knowledge on our end of the law enforcement. And I think eventually we should all be working together. I'm all about collaborating. Like to me, like I know there's different vendors that don't like people, and like that's all throughout the United States.
Right.
But to me, like as canine handlers, like let's work together.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be each other's enemies. We should be worrying about making our dogs better for the suspects. For if you even had a bad command staff, how can we make it better so they understand it? So I think we're not our enemies. We should all working together and try to make our dogs the best they can be.
That's so refreshing, man. I totally agree with you 100%. I just want to thank you, buddy. It's awesome to see you.
Thank you.
What you're doing is amazing. Please keep it up. You have great people with you. I know most of them, and I truly would trust them with any of my dogs. Maybe not with my Mal, because he's crazy. But
I'll give you Amanda. She's good with that.
Yeah. Hey, she could have him. But I truly do appreciate you. I appreciate your department for allowing you to do over and be with us today. I know you're working technically, so thank you, Marty.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Please go to Trident Canine Consulting for any dog questions. Marty's been in the business long enough where he can refer you to people that can help you if you have a dog that's a problem that's not necessarily a working dog. Look him up. Look up Larry at Canine Comrades as well.
Yeah.
Is he still doing Canine Comrades? Trust these folks have your best interest in mind. Marty, thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Please stay safe on the street.
You too.
All right, man. Keep your head down and get to that retirement day.
Yes.
And we really appreciate you coming on Scattered Chaos podcast today, brother.
Anytime.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
All right, brother.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Not bad, not bad.